However, this is Chat UTD. I'll do a preview of Liverpool a little bit later, and I'll also talk about Kobbie Mainoo's new contract. But first of all, let's talk about Andoni Iraola. So it broke in the Telegraph at the end of last week that if United are to appoint outside of Michael Carrick, it would be Andoni Iraola, that it's basically between those two. It's something of a non-story in my opinion, in that United are appointing Michael Carrick. It's done, dusted. I don't think there's any question of it. But I think it would be remiss of me not to do an overview of Iraola, given that I've not done one. I've had one ready to do, but just didn't think he was under consideration. I still don't think he's under consideration, but imagine then he gets the job and I haven't done it. It'd be terrible. So I'm going to do something of an overview of his career, my thoughts on his profile as a manager potentially of Manchester United. The bulk of his career was at Bilbao, 12 years as a player, that is. I've got a soft spot for Bilbao ever since they played United off the pitch in 2012 in the Europa League, home and away. It's some of the best football outside of Barcelona that I've seen as an opposition, from an opposition team. They were incredible. I love the fact that they bring through their own players from the Basque region. I think that's still a thing now, which is incredible for them to be as competitive as they are, narrowing the pool of players they can have to that degree, but sticking to their principles. That I talk about United and like ethos and culture and identity. You will not find a club with a stronger identity, ethos and culture than Bilbao. So much rooted to the location that they're in, so passionate. Really have, as I say, a strong soft spot for Bilbao. That's not to say he's going to be a great manager, but the fact he spent his career there, for me, is a ticking of a box. He's had 8 years as a manager, a couple of low-key jobs before going to Rayo Vallecano. He got them promoted into La Liga and they finished 12th and then 11th, which is decent. And then he went to Bournemouth. He's in his third season there. He finished 12th and then 9th. And currently they're still in with a shout of getting Europe this season. They're on a long unbeaten run. He plays good. His teams play good football, really good football. Attacking, wide players are a big part of what he does. He seems to develop players. He has to develop players because at Bournemouth, the lay of the land is that you get a player, develop them, and a bigger club swoops in and gets them, and you have to do it all over again. And he's only been there for, there'll be 3 seasons at the end of this one. He's had to reinvent the wheel several times, and he's been able to do that. So yeah, on the face of it, an attractive proposition maybe for United. It's so different though, but United is such a different animal. Bournemouth, with respect to them, I think their stadium is smaller than Edgeley Park, Stockport County's ground. It's a miracle really that they're in the Premier League when you look at their resources, you look at their fan base. It's amazing that they're in the Premier League at all. So it's an underdog story, and when you're an underdog, you've not got a lot to lose. You do have the freedom to go in and create a one for all for one mentality. And I'm hesitant because I'm not saying that's easy, but it's far easier than then going to a club the size of Manchester United and developing anything close to similar to that. It's a completely different beast. So that is something to consider, that we're judging him on something that he's done in very unique circumstances. I think Bournemouth are quite a unique club, really, in that regard as well. I wonder from Ineos's perspective if this is the profile of manager that they like, because I don't think it would be a dissimilar appointment to Amorim. And just because Amorim didn't work out doesn't mean they wouldn't stick with that profile of manager. Maybe it's the right profile of manager, but he was just the wrong character, or from their perspective. Doesn't mean you put off that profile. It just means that particular person wasn't the right fit. He wasn't the right one. But maybe I'm giving far too much credit to Ineos to believe that they have any profile of manager, because the way they act is just so chaotic and flitting from one extreme to another in terms of what they do in many different regards, that perhaps I'm giving them far too much credit. I don't know. I personally think this is a PR piece from the club. I imagine most fans, certainly most match-going fans, if Iraola is the alternative to Carrick, would say something like, well, if it's between Iraola and Carrick, you may as well just give it to Carrick. So when they appoint Carrick, there's less of a hoo-ha about it. There's less of a backlash, if you like, which I don't think there'll be a backlash anyway. But if you said Luis Enrique is the other option, of course, I think the vast majority of United fans would want Luis Enrique over Michael Carrick. If you say it's Iraola, I think it's a tighter split. For me, there's not a lot in it. I think Iraola is a better coach. I think his body of work is better. But in terms of the fit, coming into United, who need 8 players now, and they're probably going to get 4 in the summer. To say so much more analysis, micro-analysis, people around you that are not experts. In terms of the football board, there's no experts on there, bar maybe Vivell. Or you go Carrick, who I think he's more than happy just to come in and get the job and do as he's told and get the best out of what's there. And in fairness, he has so far got the best out of what's there. But that's, of course, in an interim position, which is almost a false position, really. It's not reality. It's suspended reality, which this season has been in general. So neither of them are wow appointments, but it's a split right down the line for me. We live in a world, don't we, where we want instant gratification, and we want the next shiny new toy, we want the next dopamine hit, and a new person coming in would create more of a story, it would create more of a ripple effect, it would be more to talk about, it's probably more exciting. I think Carrick almost being confirmed is almost a bit boring, really. But it's not to say it would be the right thing to do. So I'm on the fence with it, really. I think it'd be more exciting, but I think they'll go with Carrick. I have no question that they will go with Carrick, and that'll be confirmed hopefully after a win against Liverpool today, which brings me to the preview. I think we will win. I think we'll play well. I think they'll play with freedom. I think we'll go at Liverpool. Liverpool are there for the taking. They're not good at the moment. They're vulnerable. We've all but secured Champions League football. So there's no pressure really on us, I think, but it's still a big game, so we can go out and enjoy it. The crowd will be up for it. It's a bank holiday Sunday, which it does sort of give something of a different vibe to a game, I think. It's United Liverpool, which is always, of course, a big game, a big rivalry. And I expect a good performance, and I expect United to thrive in this type of game. I think this is the type of game that suits these players. And hopefully we'll see a good performance and a win, and I think we will, and that'll wrap up Champions League football against Liverpool, which would be nice. And I fully expect then, if it's not officially announced that Carrick will be the manager next season moving forward, I think it will be put out by reputable people that it's just a matter of crossing dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I think in terms of the team, I heard that Dorgu might be back. I think it's too big a game for him to start. I don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll play any minutes, to be honest. I'm not sure about Cunha, whether he's fit. I personally, I didn't mind Ahmad on the left-hand side. Having a left footer on the left side gives you that little bit more balance, and it gives you something a little bit more, a bit less predictable. I feel like on both sides we've got inverted wingers who just cut inside. We've got a striker who's 6'5". It's decent to have someone who on the left who's left-footed who can actually cross the ball into the box. That's not to say you can't cross it from the inside forward position, but I think it gives us a bit of variety with a left footer on the left-hand side. So who knows? I think if Cunha's fit, he'll play. And then it's between Ahmad and Mbeumo. I'd have Ahmad over Mbeumo at the moment. I think Mbeumo's been poor for quite some time. And Ahmad's not been pulling up any trees, but I think even just looking at the background of this game, Ahmad does well in games like this. He's been brilliant against Liverpool a couple of times. He's been a match winner in games like this. In the derby last season away from home, I'm sure he scored a goal against Liverpool at Anfield last season. He scored the winner in the FA Cup quarter-final, so against them. So yeah, I'd have Ahmad up there. And the rest kind of picks itself. Kobbie Mainoo signed a new contract. There's not been confirmation of how much money he's getting a week. I sort of said I thought 200 grand was far too much. I wouldn't be happy with him getting 150 either. There's suggestions that it's 120. I think that's a bit much, but I can kind of get on board with that. I'm just conscious and concerned of giving the lad too much too soon. With Rashford had one good season and was massively over-rewarded for it and was given a status that was far too elevated for the performances that he'd put in. And it was disproportionate. It was a disproportionate reward. And what we saw then was we gave it him all on a plate, and he stopped. It's the best way I can say it, is he just stopped playing. And with Mainoo, he's very young. I'm not convinced. I think he's a good player, but when I say I'm not convinced, that it's not just his footballing ability. I think that's not in doubt, but just his it's the psychology. You know, has he got the psychology to be a top player? And giving everything to a youngster on a plate doesn't test their psychology. So I'd want him to be tested. I'd want him to be in and around players who've been bought to start, and for him to be able to deal with that and push himself to the front of that queue. If he can do that, great. Then you earn the right to have a team built around you. He hasn't earned the right to do it. And at United, because we've been so poor for so long, we see a chink of light in a player and all of a sudden they're the next big thing, they're the second coming. He's not. He's decent. He's promising. We also have to look, and I think this is a massive concern, I've mentioned it before, that we do not have a good record in recent years of nurturing young players, be it from our own academy or players that have come in. And the ones I'm sort of referring to is Mason Greenwood, ended terribly for quite strange reasons, really, I guess, but that didn't work out. A player of huge talent that came through our system, who I think is, again, in terms of character, in terms of how did we nurture him as a character, that didn't work out at all. Rashford ended terribly, and I think United played a massive part in that. Garnacho ended terribly. Sancho was brought in as a young player, ended terribly. And Mainoo, for me, I'm 50-50. I also just think, looking at it down the years, in recent years, we've just not nurtured and brought through our own players. Collier, people were talking about for a while, he's just disappeared off the face of the earth. He's on loan, he keeps getting injured. Harry Amass has gone out to Sheffield Wednesday, by all accounts done pretty well. There's no talk of him coming and competing for the left-back spot next season, which I think is there to be competed for. They might dress it up like that in the summer when we don't get a left-back because we haven't got the money to do it or the ingenuity to do more than one or two deals. But at the moment, there's no talk of that. So we have a reputation as a club for bringing through our own. And as fans, we love that. And that's why I think Kobbie Mainoo is so fondly thought of by so many United fans, because he's a local as well. He's a local lad. And of course, you got the Busby Babes, you got the Fergie Fledglings, you got the class of '92. And even beyond that, you got the likes of Wes Brown, John O'Shea, Johnny Evans, the De Silva twins coming in at a young age and being a part of what we did for a while. There's so many examples of it down the years. Darren Fletcher, there's loads. And we want to see that, of course we do. We've got to be good enough. And giving a kid 120 grand a week and basically saying to him, you're going to play every week. There's no challenge. There's no one else. Who else is going to play? And we might buy two midfielders in the summer. Doesn't inspire confidence that this is the right decision for him in terms of not necessarily giving a new contract. I think we should give him a new contract, but the way it's been handled, I'm just not sure. Not his fault. Someone's going to give you 120 grand a week when you're 20, 21 years old. What, you're going to say no? And just finally, on saying no, you might be wondering where I'm going to go with this. Gary Neville said something interesting in the week. He said that knowing Michael Carrick, he wouldn't be overly surprised if Carrick said, I've done what you've asked me to do. I'm probably not ready for this. So let's give it for the best interest of Manchester United, let's give it someone else. I must say it's something that crossed my mind a few times over these last few months. Would Carrick do that? He's the type of guy that might do something like that, because if you remember when Ollie left, Carrick took it for a couple of games. I think he took it for 3 games. And there was a bit of I wouldn't say a clamour, but there was some people saying, why are we bringing Ralph Rangnick in when we've already got an interim in Carrick who's doing really well? And such was his loyalty towards Solskjaer and thinking he wasn't ready for it, that he backed off, bowed out and went and did his own thing. I don't get the vibe that he would do that here. I get the vibe that he wants the job. And I think he's more confident than he was back then, and he probably feels he can do it with the staff that he's got around him, who he obviously trusts. I like the fact Neville said it, because Neville has stayed true to what he said. He thinks United need a manager with more experience and more credentials to do it. And I wonder if there's a bit of psychology in what he said. Not that he has any sway over Michael Carrick, I'm sure, but to say, puts it in there, doesn't it? Sows the seed. But I'd be very surprised if that was the case. All the noise everywhere is that Carrick's going to get the job, and I assume that he is, and then it's a case of, okay, get behind it and hope we do well. So I fully expect that post-match we'll be chatting about winning, beating Liverpool, getting Champions League football, feel-good factor. And then the real stuff starts then, in terms of, decisions that the club needs to make. Up the Reds, Glazers out.